Cheating out of boredom, huh? Oh, I was so happy he swept me off my feet. He made me so happy. He was the best man ever. He was perfect. But then my ex-boyfriend just kept trying to knock the wall down, and I finally allowed him to do so because he caught me at a weak time. Give it a stop. Leave your ex-husband alone. Leave him alone. I wouldn't be surprised if you cheated before. I wouldn't be surprised if you're not telling the whole story. It's ridiculous, man. Oh my gosh, guys. It just brings the question up. Is it worth it?
Subject: I broke the man who treated me like a queen, and now I want him back. Hi, true story epic. I just discovered your channel a week ago, and I haven't stopped listening since. I didn't find you the usual way, though. I wasn't scrolling through cheating exposés or stories of broken marriages. I was actually listening to a well-known female dating coach. She was doing a segment on how to win your ex-husband back during the divorce process. And I'll be honest, it felt like she was speaking right to me. I had just finished crying into a glass of wine when I sent the video to my best friend, Megan. We've been glued at the hip since college, and she's been one of the only people who hasn't completely judged me for the mess I created. I told her, Megan, I don't care what it takes. I want Will back. I need Will back. She paused the video and gave me this look, this sad, quiet look like someone looking at a car wreck in slow motion. Then she said, Nia, I love you, but it might be too late. You really hurt that man. You didn't just cheat. You broke something in him. I didn't say anything back. I couldn't. I just sat there trying not to cry again. Megan hit play and let the coach talk, but it was clear she didn't believe some win him back strategy was going to undo what I did. Then something happened. You know how YouTube recommends videos out of nowhere? One came up titled, She Cheated and Lied About the Kids. My lawyer caught everything. The thumbnail showed this dude with his hands in his face like the whole world had crashed down on him. Megan clicked it before I could say anything. It was your channel, True Story Epic. And I swear, not even 10 minutes in, we were both crying. That story was gut-wrenching. I couldn't believe what that poor man went through. Discovering that the children he raised weren't his, that the woman he loved had built her whole life on lies, I felt sick to my stomach, not just for him, but for myself too, because no, I didn't have kids, but I was the horrible woman in my own story. That was my reflection, staring back at me. That night, Megan and I stayed up late and we came up with a plan, a real one, a slow, humble, do everything right plan to somehow get Will to give me a second chance. I know it sounds crazy, but please let me explain how I got here. Maybe if you read my story, someone else will stop before they make the same mistake. How I met Will. The real-life love story. Will walked into my life like something out of a movie. I met him at a friend's gallery opening. I was wearing this green satin dress that made me feel like money, and he walked over to me with the kind of confidence that's quiet, not cocky. He wasn't the loudest guy in the room. He wasn't flexing or showing off. He just offered me a glass of wine and asked, Are you as out of place here as I am? I laughed. I didn't even think. It just came out. I was already hooked. There were 3 moments early on that told me he was the one. The soup incident. I had the flu during our first month dating. Most guys would ghost or send a get well soon text. Will came over with homemade chicken soup. He made it himself. Not only that, but he stayed up all night with me, changing out cold compresses and making me laugh in between my coughing fits. The broken heel night. We were out at a wedding and my heel broke on the dance floor. I was ready to call it a night, but Will, he took his shoes off, handed them to me, and walked around barefoot for the rest of the evening, just so I wouldn't feel embarrassed. The journal. On our 6-month anniversary, he gave me a leather-bound journal. Inside the front cover, he'd written, Write your dreams here. I'll help you make them come true. No man had ever said anything like that to me. I cried when I read it. That journal still sits on my bookshelf, mostly empty. Everything in me knew I had a good man, and somehow I let the devil whisper in my ear anyway. My ex-boyfriend. The snake in the garden. His name was Darius. He was the bad boy I dated on and off for almost 6 years before Will came into the picture. Tall, charming, tattooed, always knew the right thing to say, but never the right thing to do. We were toxic for each other. We broke up more times than I can count, but the sex, electric. That kind of connection makes a woman stupid if she's not careful. When I started dating Will, I blocked Darius. No contact. I meant it too. I told Megan, this one is different. I'm not messing this up. And I didn't. Not at first. Even after we got married, I never cheated. I didn't even think about Darius. Will had my whole heart. Then Darius moved back to the city. He'd been away for 3 years. Jail, actually. I didn't know at first. When I found out, I was shocked, but not surprised. That was Darius. Trouble. He started texting me from a new number 1 random Tuesday. At first, I didn't respond. Then he left a voice message. Then a few more. Then one day, I cracked. It was a stupid fight with Will. Something small. I don't even remember what it was. But I was angry and prideful and lonely in that moment. Darius knew how to slip in during my weakest moments. He always had. He said he just wanted to talk, catch up, get coffee. I told myself it wouldn't hurt. It turned into dinner, then dinner turned into drinks, then drinks turned into, let's just talk at my place. I swear on everything. The first night nothing happened. I told myself I was strong, but I kept seeing him, kept lying, kept telling Will I was out with Megan. I knew I was playing with fire, and eventually I burned everything down. The day Will caught me. I'll never forget it. It was a Saturday morning. Will had left the night before to visit his mom out of town, or so I thought. Turns out she canceled last minute, but he didn't tell me. He wanted to surprise me by coming home early. Well, he got a surprise all right. Darius was in our bed, our bed. I heard the door open downstairs, and my stomach dropped. I jumped up so fast I nearly twisted my ankle. Will walked in just in time to see me scrambling to grab a sheet. Darius had the audacity to laugh and say, "Damn, bro, you didn't knock." Will didn't say a word. He just looked at me. That was worse than yelling, worse than cussing or throwing something. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me. I started crying, begging. Darius got dressed and walked out like nothing happened. Will just stood there, then turned around and left. That was it. The divorce and losing everything. I tried to call him. I texted. I showed up at his job. He wouldn't talk to me. He hired a lawyer immediately and filed for divorce within the week. And here's the thing. I had just quit my job. We agreed I'd take some time off to focus on our home. Maybe start that candle business I always dreamed of. That meant when it came to alimony, my lawyer tried to argue I deserved support. But Will's lawyer, she was ruthless. She laid out a full case, showed text messages, phone records, pictures, even pulled statements from neighbors. She made it clear I wasn't some struggling housewife. I was a cheater who nuked her own life. In the end, the judge sided with Will. No alimony. I left that courtroom with nothing but my last name, and even that felt borrowed. Part 2. Rock bottom and the weight of regret. After the divorce was finalized, I was in a state I never thought I'd be in. No husband, no job, no alimony, no dignity, just silence. And that silence was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I moved in with Megan. She offered me her guest room without asking for anything in return. She didn't even say I told you so, even though she had every right to. She was the only one left in my corner. My own mother didn't want to talk to me when she heard what I did. She said, and I quote, "You had a good man and you spat in God's face. Don't come crying to me when it all falls apart." Click. That was our last phone call. I spent my days scrolling through old photos, watching wedding videos, rereading text messages, that I had long since memorized. I would fall asleep with my phone on my chest and wake up hoping it had buzzed with a message from Will. It never did. And then there was Darius, the ex who wouldn't let go. At first, I was too heartbroken to talk to Darius. He would text me like everything was fine. You good? We should go out. You thinking about me? I ignored him for a while, but after a couple weeks, I gave in. I was alone, ashamed, and I didn't want to feel anything. Darius was a distraction. He took me out to bars, paid for dinner, told me things like, "You just need a man who knows how to handle you." And the stupid part? A tiny piece of me believed him for a while. I let him back into my bed, even though I cried afterward almost every single time. He didn't know how to handle me. He didn't even care about me. But I was too tired to be alone, and I didn't believe I deserved anything better anymore. One night, we were out at some dive bar, and he got into a fight with a guy over a pool game. He shoved the guy into a table, broke a glass, and nearly got arrested. That's when it hit me. I blew up my marriage, destroyed the man who loved me. And for what? A violent loser who couldn't even go one night without acting like a teenage thug? I left him at the bar and blocked his number. This time, for good. What made me want to fight again? A few weeks later, I had that moment with Megan, watching The Dating Coach and discovering your channel. And something shifted. It wasn't just guilt anymore. It was purpose. I didn't want Will back just because I missed the life. I wanted him back because he's my person. The one man who ever loved me the way I wanted to be loved. Deeply, intentionally, faithfully. Megan could see I was serious this time. So we sat down and came up with a plan. She told me straight up, "You can't just go cry at his doorstep. That's not going to work. You need to show, not tell." So I started working on myself. The plan to win him back. The first step was getting my act together financially. I got a job at a local boutique. It's not glamorous, and it's certainly not what I went to school for, but it's honest. And I needed that. Every dollar I make feels like a step toward earning back my self-respect. Second, I started therapy. Twice a week. Real grueling, soul-stripping therapy. I unpacked all the reasons I sabotaged my marriage. The lies I told myself. The pain I never dealt with from past relationships, and slowly I began to understand why I was the way I was. I also wrote a letter to Will, not to send, but to say everything I would if I could. Megan read it and cried. She said, "That's the most honest thing you've ever written." I started taking care of myself, too. Not just physically, though I did lose some weight and get my skin in check, but mentally. I read books on forgiveness, humility, and relationships. I stopped going out, stopped partying. I even deleted all my old social media accounts and started fresh. But still, Will hadn't spoken a word to me. The run-in that broke me, again. One afternoon in late February, I was walking through the grocery store when I saw him. Will, my Will, pushing a cart with headphones in, just looking calm and peaceful and different. Like a weight had been lifted off of him. I panicked. I ducked into the canned goods aisle and watched him from the corner of my eye like a complete stalker. I was shaking so bad I dropped a can of black beans. He saw me. Our eyes locked. And do you know what he did? He nodded. Not a smile, not a wave, just a nod. Like I was some woman he vaguely remembered from a networking event. That's when I realized he was really gone. Not just physically, emotionally. I made it to my car and just broke down. Screaming, sobbing, full body trembling. It was the kind of cry that doesn't come with tears right away. Just sound. Pain. Raw pain. Megan had to come pick me up. I couldn't even drive home. One last shot. After that, Megan said maybe I needed to give it a rest. Sometimes healing means moving on, she said, but I'm not ready to move on. Not yet. I believe in signs, and I've seen too many lately to give up. Your channel was one of them. That story of the man who found out his kids weren't his. It changed me. I cried because I saw myself in that man's wife, and I hated what I saw. I don't want to be that woman anymore. So I did something bold. I mailed Will a box. No letter, just the things he gave me over the years that I couldn't let go of. The leather journal he gave me on our anniversary. A printed photo of us on our wedding day. A copy of a poem I wrote him when we were engaged. He used to keep it in his wallet. And a thumb drive with a voice recording of me reading the apology letter I wrote in therapy. I don't know if he's listened to it. He hasn't responded. I don't even know if he kept the box, but I had to try. I had to do something. Where I am now, I'm still working at the boutique, still in therapy, still reading, growing, praying. I go on long walks by myself now, no phone, no distractions, just me and whatever I'm feeling that day. Sometimes I think I'm getting better. Other times I fall back into that dark hole where I imagine Will happy with someone else. That's the part I don't like admitting, the jealousy. I don't want to control him. I don't want to ruin his peace. I just wish I could be part of it again. I've heard people say once a cheater, always a cheater. Maybe for some, that's true, but not for me. I learned my lesson in the most brutal way possible. I gave up the only man who ever loved me unconditionally, and I did it for the thrill of being desired by someone who never deserved me. I'll regret it every day of my life. Part 3. Therapy, Unwelcome Guests, and My Final Plea. There are things about yourself you don't really see until you sit in a chair across from someone trained to call out your patterns. My therapist, Dr. Elena, didn't let me get away with much. In the beginning, I sugarcoated everything. I blamed stress. I blamed the emotional gap in my marriage. I even blamed Will a little, telling myself that if he had just been more emotionally present, maybe I wouldn't have been tempted when Darius came back. She just stared at me with this stillness that unnerved me, and she asked one question. What made you feel entitled to betray him? That word, entitled. It stung, because I didn't think I was that kind of person, but I was. I expected loyalty while I was entertaining another man in my inbox. I expected patience while I snuck around like a teenager. I expected Will to fight for me after I already burned the bridge. It took me 3 sessions to stop crying about that word alone. Unpacking the weakness. Dr. Elena helped me trace my behaviors back to something I never thought was connected: abandonment. I was raised by a mother who constantly threatened to leave. If I didn't clean right, if I spoke back, if I cried, it was always, I should have never had you, or you're going to end up alone just like your aunt. So I learned to cling to anything that made me feel wanted. Darius, he was a comfort zone, familiar, easy. I didn't have to earn his love. He just kept showing up, even if it was toxic, even if he wasn't really seeing me. I clung to that when I felt like I was losing Will, because I didn't know how to fight for love the right way. I only knew how to manipulate, to guilt, to seduce. That realization changed everything. The day Darius came back, just when I thought I was finally climbing out of that pit, Darius showed up at Megan's apartment. Yes, showed up, uninvited, unannounced, unhinged. He buzzed the door, and like a fool, I let him in thinking it was a package delivery. When I opened the door and saw his face, my stomach dropped. He looked mad. Not angry like yelling mad, but the kind of mad that simmers and calculates. Why you been ghosting me? He asked. I'm done, Darius, I said. You need to leave. He didn't move. You think that dude's coming back for you? You think he's gonna forget what you did? That's when Megan came out of her room with pepper spray and told him she was calling the cops. He laughed, muttered something I can't repeat, and walked out. But he left a stink in the air that made it hard to sleep for days. I had nightmares. I had to change the locks. I filed a report just in case he tried anything again. And all I could think was, this is what I chose over my husband. Letters I never sent. Since then, I've written at least a dozen letters to Will that I've never sent. Sometimes I write like I'm still his wife. Sometimes I write like I'm just a friend. Sometimes I write like I'm talking to a stranger, trying to explain how I became the woman I never wanted to be. One of those letters reads, Will, I know you won't believe this, but I still wake up and reach for you, even now. And when I realize I'm alone, the shame hits like a wall. You were my best friend. You were my home. And I set fire to it because I thought I could have it all. I would trade every night with Darius, every moment of false validation, every stupid second of that affair, just to go back to the last night you held me without suspicion. I'm so sorry. I'll say it until I'm gone. I'm sorry. I love you. I've burned most of the letters, but that one I kept. Things I remember that hurt the most. Sometimes it's not the big moments that haunt you, it's the little ones. The way Will used to put his hand on my back when we crossed the street. How he'd bring me a glass of water without asking whenever I got too quiet. The time he held me when I had a panic attack, whispering, I'm here. You're not alone. It wasn't just that I betrayed my husband. I betrayed someone who loved me gently. That kind of love is rare. And when I look back, I realize he loved me in ways I didn't even recognize until he stopped. The silence after the divorce wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about the death of a friendship, the loss of a man who knew all my favorite snacks and my worst fears, a man who would have stood by me through anything except what I did. And I don't blame him. If he ever watches this, that's part of why I'm writing to you, not just to confess to a stranger, but in the tiniest hope that Will might somehow hear this. Maybe he listens to your channel. Maybe he hears my name or my voice and knows it's me. Maybe he doesn't. But if he ever does, this is what I want him to hear. Will, I was weak. I was selfish. I was broken. And I bled all over the person who tried to love me whole. I never once thought I'd be the woman who cheats. I never once thought I'd be the woman caught, half-dressed, cornered, guilty. But more than that, I never thought I'd be the woman who lost you. You were everything I said I wanted, everything I prayed for. And when the devil came knocking in the form of Darius, I didn't just answer, I welcomed him in. You caught me, and I'll never forget the look in your eyes, that pain, that betrayal, that silence before you walked out of the room. I knew in that moment that whatever you were feeling inside was something I couldn't undo. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fall on my knees and beg. I did later, but in that moment I just stood there like a coward, wrapped in a blanket of my own shame. Because what could I say? I'm sorry didn't even begin to scratch the surface. I've played that moment back in my head 1,000 times, and every time I think of something different I should have done, but it always ends the same, you walking away, and me alone. What the divorce taught me. The hearings were cold, mechanical, like my marriage had been processed and turned into spreadsheets and invoices. My attorney told me to smile more, to look soft. His told the truth, bluntly and with evidence. Screenshots, timeline charts. One photo of Will sitting in his car outside our house after finding the messages between me and Darius before he came in and caught us. That one broke me. It wasn't just what I did. It was what I turned him into, someone who sat in silence outside his own home, processing the worst betrayal of his life, all alone. That image will never leave me. When the judge ruled that I wouldn't be receiving alimony, I wasn't surprised. I had recently quit my job to focus on us. I used that time to build a life with another man behind Will's back. The court didn't buy my tears. Will's lawyer made sure of that, and honestly, they were right not to. After it was over, I tried everything I could think of to get him to talk to me. Emails, letters, voice notes, showing up to places he used to go. I even sent a card on his birthday. Nothing worked. He never responded, and I understand why. You can't rebuild a bridge you set fire to, if the other side has already moved on, when the world keeps spinning without you. The strange thing about being the one who messed up is realizing how quickly the world forgets you when the person you betrayed moves on. Mutual friends stopped calling. His sister blocked me. His mom, his mom, who used to hug me and call me her second daughter, left a voicemail saying she never wanted to hear from me again. I couldn't argue. They were all right. And when I saw him 6 months after the divorce, across the street at a farmer's market, I ducked behind a car. I wasn't ready. He looked happy. He had a dog now. He was laughing with a friend. He looked free. And I was still picking up pieces of myself I'd shattered the day I went to the beach alone. One afternoon, I took a train out to a beach we used to visit. It was empty that day, gray skies, waves rough and loud. I walked along the shore with my shoes in my hands, feeling the cold sand under my feet, and I started whispering out loud everything I wish I'd said to him. I said, "You were good to me when I didn't deserve it. You made me feel safe in a world that kept telling me I wasn't enough. I see it now. I really see it." I ended up crying in the sand like a fool. People walked by, some stared. I didn't care. That beach held memories I tainted, but it was the closest I could get to reliving a moment with him without actually being near him. What Megan said to me one night. One night, Megan and I were watching True Story Epic again. This time, a story where the woman begged and begged and the man just never looked back. She turned to me and said something I'll never forget. Some men don't take you back, not because they're cold, but because what you broke in them was sacred. Will had loved me sacredly, and I stained that love. If I could go back, I think about this more than I care to admit. If I could go back, I would have blocked Darius the moment he reached out. I would have told Will every day how much I appreciated his consistency, his calm, his kindness. I would have gone to therapy before the marriage started crumbling. I would have never let that man in our home, our bedroom, our bed. But there's no rewind button, only replay. To any woman listening who thinks she won't get caught. Let me tell you something. You don't need to get caught to be wrong. You don't need someone to walk in on you to have already shattered trust. The moment your heart shifts away in secret, you're already gone. If I had one message for other women like me, it's this. You will regret it. It won't be worth it. That attention you're chasing won't hold you the way your husband did. It won't protect you the way he did. It won't love your worst like he did. You will look back one day and see his face in a stranger, and your chest will cave in. And by then, it'll be too late. To Will, one last time. If you ever find this, if you ever hear it, if someone sends it your way, this is all I want you to know. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to think of me kindly, but I want you to know that you changed my life, not just in marriage, in who I'm becoming now. Because of you, I know what real love feels like. Because of you, I know what I lost when I let my selfishness take the wheel. Because of you, I'm healing, slowly, painfully, but truthfully. You were never the problem. You were the blessing I threw away, and I'm so sorry. With whatever is left of my heart,